Welcome back to Fact Check on Unnatural Selection, where we investigate which creators are the most trustworthy using an AI research model. In the first video of this series, we looked at conspiracist Flat Earth Dave. Because his content lies so far outside the realm of reality, he can act as a baseline for a bad creator, someone who either purposely spreads lies for their own gain, or simply lacks any real understanding of the topics they talk about. His abysmally low score got me thinking. It would be really useful for this series if we had a good creator to reference, someone who scores very highly across almost all of their claims. So, I found another Dave. Professor Dave Explains is a large science communication channel that got its start almost a decade ago with science lesson videos. He is also famous for his debunks of conspiracists and pseudo-intellectuals like Terence Howard. Because we are focusing more on establishing a good baseline, the actual topic of this video is less important, so I've randomly taken this recent video from his channel on figuring out age in archaeology. Before we look at how well he scored, a quick update on the model. For anyone new, I have created an AI research model that allows us to fact check every individual claim made by a content creator in a specific video. Using ChatGPT 4.0, it figures out how many claims are being made and which ones are too vague to research. This gives us a vagueness score, the lower the better. 4.0 also calculates the complexity of a claim, the idea being the more complicated a claim is, the less certain we can be if it's correct. Think the car is red versus the relation between Tesla's renewable energy production, rare earth metal extraction, and environmental policy. 1 equals super complex, 0 equals very basic. The second GPT, web browser, then takes each claim and verifies it against 20 individual sources. Each source gets a score from 0 to 1 in terms of how much it agrees with the claim. From this, the average accuracy score for each claim is calculated, which is then used in the overall accuracy score for the video. Again, 1 being good and 0 being bad. I want to keep you guys updated on how the model develops until it eventually evolves so much that I do a dedicated video on it. The model aside, let's look at how well Professor Dave Explains scored. In this near 7-minute video, 32 claims were made, but only 3 were too vague to check, giving him a vagueness score of just 9.4%. I'm going to predict that around 10% will be our benchmark for what a clear and precise speaker is. 0% is probably impossible, as we all use vague statements as a natural part of communication, so 9.4% is probably really good. The complexity score was 0.26, meaning the average claim in this video was fairly simple. While a low complexity score isn't necessarily better, it does mean we can be a lot more confident in the accuracy results calculated by the model. Now, the most important result. The overall accuracy score for this video was a whopping 0.98, a near perfect score. Only 2 of the 29 research claims scored less than a perfect score, and looking at the accuracy graph, we can see that only 1 of those claims fell outside of the fully accurate zone. Before moving on to look at the specific claims, I want to introduce a new graph that we'll be using going forward. This looks at both accuracy and complexity at the same time. Anything in the fully accurate and mostly accurate zones is treated as the same, regardless of complexity, so the colours don't change. However, below this line, claims with lower complexity are treated as worse, even if the accuracy is the same. The dark red square represents the worst rank a claim can be, both very simple and inaccurate. Think of this as the death zone for claims. Professor Dave's results on this graph look like this, showing again how accurate his claims are while also being very simple. As we said before, Professor Dave only had 1 claim that fell outside the fully accurate zone, scoring an even 0.5.
Most excavations produce thousands of artifacts.
The model didn't consider this claim as entirely accurate because the number of artifacts found in an excavation can vary greatly depending on several factors. For example, the age of the site, the preservation conditions, and how much prior research has been done. Some excavations do uncover thousands of artifacts, like Dave said, especially in areas with rich cultural histories or significant historical events. Take the excavation of Pompeii in Italy, for example. Since it was preserved under volcanic ash, archaeologists have found literally tens of thousands of artifacts. On the other hand, excavations in less preserved or less populated areas yield far fewer artifacts. For example, the Kennewick Man discovery in Washington State, USA, involved the excavation of a human skeleton that was over 9,000 years old. Though the find was significant, there were only a handful of accompanying artifacts, showing that even important archaeological sites can sometimes provide limited materials. I think we should consider this claim as an exaggeration, likely made to make his point of how expensive archaeology is stronger. While technically an inaccuracy, we can see that it's quite minor. Simply changing the wording to some excavations instead of most excavations gives an accuracy score of 1 rather than 0.5. It's a good example of human error in research, and that an overall score of 1, while ideal, shouldn't be expected. This highlights a reason why I've developed the model in the first place. Everyone can make and spread inaccuracies. What's more important is figuring out how much more misinformation one spreads over another, so we know who to trust in the highly congested modern information landscape. Comparing these results to the last video, we can see it's night and day in terms of who is the more trustworthy creator. Using this, I've created something we're calling the Dave baseline. We have the terrible results of Flat Earth Conspiracy Dave, produced by Consistent Lies, and the excellent results of Professor Dave, discussed in this video. We can use these two as a benchmark to compare future videos of what a good and bad creator is. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Fact Check. Our next video will be looking at the published manifesto of Luigi Mangione, recently arrested for the political assassination of the United Healthcare CEO. While tragic, this offers a more serious real-world application of the model on recent events. This has been Fact Check on Unnatural Selection. Thank you for watching.